We are live from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada.
I guess we're live on the internet.
I guess so.
Cool.
Let's get ready to rumble.
I hope we don't have to pay licensing for that. We're going to do like usual, 2 episodes. We're going to have a little intermission in between. And if you're ready to roll, I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. Here we go. Little sip of water.
Sip of water.
Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Ryan.
And on today's episode, we're going to have some board game banter where we talk about some games we've been playing. We're going to have some news. And Ryan, what's the topic, please?
I believe this is one of our original ideas. Or was this I can't remember now. I think this is
it's a hybrid fusion.
It's probably a hybrid fusion. But we're going to be talking about our favorite or our top entry level games. Those games that get people into the hobby.
Cool. That was a good edit point. I'm always waiting for you to do a little gag on the end.
No, that's for the reviews. That's for the reviews. That's where the shtick comes in.
Okay, coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to go into some board game banter. And Ryan, why don't you start us off with what you've been playing? Because you showed me this game, and yeah, let's talk about it.
You've got some thoughts. Well, I've got thoughts on it too.
I have some thoughts.
Yeah. So a little game that I've been playing lately has been Brew, published by Pandasaurus Games here in 2021, with the designer credited to Stevo Torres, with artists Jake Morrison and Andrew Thompson. And I have to highlight the art on Brew because it's very cute and whimsical.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that will draw people into this game is the art style, and especially that cute little dog-like woodland creature right on the front box. It's definitely going to pull people in.
Yeah.
Brew. I kind of attribute it, and I like the way you put it, is that we're kind of like druid-like people going out into the forests, foraging some ingredients, making friends with the woodland creatures to brew some potions, and screw over the other players that are at the table, because that seems to be a thing that I didn't think was as big of a thing, but my latest plays of it, yeah, it gets quite mean at times. So yeah, in Brew, you're going to be, it's a dice worker placement game at its heart. And you got your set of dice, and also every player has these elemental dice. And that's kind of like the big part of the game, is wielding the elements, because there's a central market board that each of the element dice kind of do something different. And there's a daytime side and a nighttime side to the board, and they have different effects. But really what they do is something special when they get placed into these forest cards. The forest cards are up at the top of the board. And yeah, there's like the fire elemental dice, which allows you to cover up another person's dice that's already been placed on the forest card. And that's important because there's a little bit of an area control element on those forest cards, because they're worth points if you have the majority on them at the end of the round. Then there's the water elemental dice, and water just gets you more resources. And the wind elemental dice, which blows back one of your previous placed dice back into your pool so that you can use it again on another turn, which could be big if you feel like you don't have any area control going on. You can just take your dice back and go put it somewhere else. And then there's the potions, and this is the big thing of the game, because potions have ingredient costs, usually from 2 to all the way up to 7. Yeah. And the two ingredient potions, worth not so many points. Effect, kinda But then there's the big ingredient potions for the big points and the big effects. And the big effects usually is manipulating all the dice that have already been placed out there. So taking away somebody's previously placed dice, just taking it away for the round, or swapping dice placements, or covering up other places, or stuff, burning places for people to put their dice down. So those
Yeah.
potion cards, holy Toledo, do they affect the game? And you have to be in what we had in our game and my games after that. You have to pay attention to what people are buying, because that's going to change the order of operations that you use in future rounds. Because if I know that Norm can swap my dice or take away my dice, like, it's huge swings.
You have to be looking in everybody's pantry what potions they're handling, because you have to have a comeback, right? Yeah.
And so that's a big element of the game. And then the other big element of the game are all the woodland creatures that you can tame and bring into your, because all the woodland creatures have abilities on them, essentially, where it's, if I place a dice in this type of forest, I get extra resources, or I get to burn a space, or if I collect this type of resource, I get some points. And then there's combos that you can kind of synergistically manipulate with those woodland creatures. And then if you get so many, I think standard, it's, you can only have 3 of them. One particular character allows you to have 4. But once you've collected more than 3, you have to release a creature into a forest, but you would have had to have already claimed that particular forest in order to release them into it. Oh my goodness, so many things going on in this game. And for a tight little package, like I say, it's a small box game that packs a lot of punch and a lot of value for what you can, because I keep saying this, in Canada, we usually pay more of a premium on our games up here, but this one only cost me like this one only cost me like $30, which is
the price point's awesome.
It's amazing. Now, I made some comments earlier where I think, that's a right around the bit. I wouldn't want to play anymore, because this game, now that I've played it probably about 6 or 7 times, every game is starting to kind of feel the same. Even though the woodland creature combinations that you're going to collect are going to be quite a bit different every game, but you're still doing the same things over and over. You're going out, you're trying to get the majorities in those forests.
It's following the same program lines.
You got it's kind of, you have to have the same recipe every single time in order to be successful in the game. And you have to be mean to one another. Like, you have to be mean, and you have to be paying attention to those things. So I think I've gotten what I want out of it. Unfortunately, it's not getting to like 10 plus plays for me. It's going to probably stay on my shelf for a while. Like, for $30, why not? For me, it's starting just to kind of be repeatable every now and then. So, but that's not to say I have enjoyed my games. I've enjoyed my games of it. Your thoughts? Or did I hit on them? I think I
you hit them all. Like, to me, it's go into this game knowing that those potions are, if you're not paying attention, those potions are like stepping into an uppercut. Because it could completely take your whole game off, right? I'm
going to put my dice here. I'm going to flip over this potion card, and now that dice is gone.
I'm going to burn this territory and be the only one. Oh, you swapped me out? I hate you.
Oh, I wish I would have known you had that card.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that was my first play as well. And knowing what I know now, that would be the first priority is what nitrous oxide kits are you buying? Because I need to not step into a haymaker, right? So and that being said, that whole idea of like bashing somebody else doesn't interest me unless that is the game, like Unmatched, right? That's the game. Go and beat the crap out of each other. But this one with the area control, I was trying to get all Euro on it, and then you just started beating me up with these potions. I'm like, oh, that's the importance about these resource gatherings.
I'm trying to remember. I've said this about another game, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Root, where it's like, it's the game that looks cute and family friendly, and then you actually play it, and it's a knife fight in a phone booth.
It's like having a pillow fight with bricks.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. So if anything I have mentioned here interests you, $30 price point in Canada. Yeah, definitely check out Brew. It's got a lot of good things going on for it. But for me, it's starting to overstay its welcome.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, I was so happy the mailman made my day on Friday, and I got Cascadia, designed by Randy Flynn, art by Beth Sobel. Because you got to say it. Here, you know what? Look, I can show you. This game is gorgeous.
This has been on my raid. I can't believe I didn't back this on Kickstarter. I can't believe it.
Hat tip to Flat Out Games and AEG. They are absolutely knocking it out. Flat Out Games, Calico, right? I've talked about and praised Calico for its smooth abstract puzzle. This game has the same DNA as Calico in the concepts that you're placing hex tiles. Calico was patterns and colors. This is animals and habitats. And what's really cool is that they add the element. I'm kind of calling it the Tiny Towns element, where you have these cards in different categories: bears, elk, salmon. There's 5 categories, and within those categories, there's different scoring patterns for those animals in that habitat. And how it works is it's a tile drafting game where each player has their own little tableau where you start, and the market is, from a solo perspective, but the market is 4 tiles, and above each tile is in the bag you randomly take out a little indicator. Right now it's just like a little wooden puck, and it has the color and the image of the animal, and it's these random pairings of habitats and animals where you have to decide what grouping you're going to select to start your habitat development, I guess, and your speciation. And wow, I played this game. I already started that little campaign in the back, I think 8 times already.
Wow.
And if it had more cards, I'd have sleeved them by now. So that says something.
Wow, yeah. Strong words.
Yeah,
when you bust out the word sleeves.
Right. See, like and I think what to me is such a beautiful part of this game is the artwork is awesome. Like I think in my tweet I said it's Audubon Society level art. So yay, well done, Beth Sobel. So have you played either Calico?
Still haven't played Calico. And okay. I know I'm kicking myself because I see it on the shelf every time I go into Amazing Stories. I see it there, and I don't know why I don't, because you talk so highly of it. I'm pretty sure it's definitely a game that Jen would really enjoy. This looks like another one of those games. Don't be afraid to get both of them. Don't be afraid at all. I need more C games in my collection.
Because it's like how Rosenberg had the patchwork thing, right? So, and then he'd take the patchwork idea and put it into another, kind of elevated it a little bit. I think that DNA from Calico is being added and kind of flourishing in different themes and more concepts. So yeah, I'm very happy that I picked this one up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bring it. You need to bring this one lunch hour to work. Yeah. Can it be played at a lunch hour?
Absolutely. Let me see here quickly.
What was the time frame?
It's 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, that's a lunch hour. Absolutely. That's a lunch hour game.
And you know what? Without confirming this conjecture, I believe Calico is the same time frame as well.
Sold. We've got like a Wednesday Thursday thing going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, why don't you lead us into the next segment?
Sir, so we're going to do the... Yeah, we got some news going on, and it's fun. It's funny. I forgot to put my show notes in, and so when I went to go put them in, I saw that Norm had put some notes in, and one of the things that I was going to talk about, he actually already put in. Wait, what? And it's the Jogo do Ano, the Spiel of Portugal 2021 nominees have been released. And this is always one that I always pay attention to because the Jogo do Ano is typically a little bit of a heavier weight game than, say, like the Kenner Spiel de Jahres or even the Spiel de Jahres. So let's run down the nominees here.
Okay, before you start, I'm looking at the list and I'm kicking myself because I still haven't played last year's winner, which was Barrage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So wait, maybe before we even announce the nominees, a couple years in the running here. So 2020, Norm mentioned Barrage was the winner. In 2019 was Route. In 2018, Lisboa. 2017, Great Western Trail. 2016, Mombasa. And of course, I'll mention 2015 because it's a favorite amongst us. La Granja was also a winner. So you can see I love all of these games that have won in the past. And so here are this year's nominees: Dune Imperium, Praga Caput Regni.
I love that name.
Viscounts of the West Kingdom, On Mars, Imperial Struggle. Now there's two games that I have not played on this list. I have not played Imperial Struggle, heard good things about it, and I have not played Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Also have heard, actually that one I've heard a mixed bag about.
Yeah.
But of the others, Dune Imperium, fantastic game.
Yeah.
Praga Caput Regni, fantastic game. On Mars, I wish I could play On Mars more. It's a great game. It's a bear to teach.
Cool. My rundown of this list is Dune Imperium. I agree. That's such a awesome game. My only concern with this is this a heavy enough game to be punching at the same weight as these other ones? That's my only concern.
Well, I would put Dune Imperium on the same level as maybe like a Great Western Trail.
Okay.
Or even a Mombasa.
Regni. I have it on my shelf. I haven't played that one yet.
Ooh, it's on the shelf of shame.
It's on the shelf of shame. Viscounts, I haven't played it yet. I have the other two in the series, but I haven't gotten to this one yet. On Mars, I wish I could play it. I love me some Vital. And Imperial Struggle, I have it. I haven't played it yet because that's a history game that Al and I are going to play because, being history teachers and all.
Right.
And, it just gives me another reason to play board games. So,
oh gosh. Now, the three that I have played, I can see merits for all three of those winning this type of an award. I'll go out and I'll probably say On Mars.
Okay.
Fantastic game. I think On Mars is the heaviest game on all of that list. But a Vital Lacerda game has won it in the past. Lisboa did. But okay, well, maybe now I'm talking myself out of that because On Mars is quite a bit heavier than Lisboa.
I'm thinking Praga.
Praga Caput Regni is a very good candidate for this. Now it's not super heavy, but it's got a lot of moving pieces to it. It's got a lot of moving pieces. I haven't played it yet,
so I'm a little out of my realm.
Actually,
here.
Praga Caput Regni could be a really, really good.
I'm just going on the designer.
Oh, Vladimir Suhi is a great, fantastic, a favorite of Cardboard Conjectures.
And this would be such a good push for their new publishing company too. So, cool.
So, okay, let's put it in conjecture. I think we're going both. Would you agree with Praga?
I'm going to go with Praga.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Praga Caput Regni. We hope you win the Jogo do Ano, the Spiel Portugal 2021.
And if they do win, I'm going to have to play this game and and we'll talk about it.
Well, you should just play it anyways. You
wait.
need to do some research for maybe an upcoming topic. I'll leave it in mystery now what that topic is.
See, we're teachers. We have to have like objectives and indicators, and it's like, oh no, I can't just play it and enjoy it. No way, man.
No, we're doing research here. We gotta suck the fun out of everything.
We have to quantify and qualify everything.
Oh, now you're talking. Now you're talking my words.
Well, speaking of that, for like want to talk some numbers, let's go into some crowdfunding fun here. And I pulled a couple out of there, and are you a big Awakened Realms fan?
Oh, baby, am I.
Well, why don't you talk about this one if you want?
Are you talking about ISS Vanguard?
Yeah.
AKA, so Jason from Dice and Dragons and I have talked about this one in the past. Literally, this is Star Trek, the board game, without any Star Trek IP associated with it.
Really?
And I'll just let you know, I am an all-in backer for this one.
So that means I'll have a chance to play it. Cool.
Like, I mean, I even got all of the cosmetic upgrades, the fancy dice towers, the fancy dice, the fancy sun dropping wash that they put on the miniatures. Like,
was there any guilt when you kept clicking and clicking?
100% not. This thing looks absolutely amazing.
You were meant to have it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know a terrible ton. I haven't done the research all into all of the gameplay, but essentially you're going out and you're exploring worlds and you're having encounters with alien beings, and there's a bit of a story element that's happening with it too. It's a campaign type of game.
I love my space stuff. Yeah, it got me like I think the mini or the cover, just that whole cinema. Like,
oh yeah, like you're the team. You're the team there,
awesome,
looking over the ridge, and there's these gigantic spaces, like spaceships,
and an exploding planet or moon in the background. Because that's not threatening at all.
This thing, whenever this does arrive, I have no idea when. This one is probably going to take up most of my time.
Well, you know what? I'll help you out with that if you need it. I'll help you out with that.
Oh, I think this has got Norm written all over it too. Like we would have an absolute blast playing this game.
And I'll try not to have a Scottish accent because I can't.
I just always end up talking like a leprechaun.
Oh, let's not offend most of the British Isles.
Let's not offend the leprechauns.
Oh. Okay. This one, you know what? This one, I heard a couple people talking about it. I had a peek, and Mythic Mischief by IV Studios, a game of tactical traps and high-stake hijinks. Lure opponents with the vampires or toss them with the trolls. No matter which of the 7 asymmetric factions you choose, use your abilities to manipulate everything on the board to place your enemies in the path of the dreaded Tomb Keeper.
Crazy. I have never even heard of this game.
Doesn't that sound cool?
It does have lots of really neat things going on with it.
Like I'm looking at the shot of the components, and there's a lot of that whole asymmetric board where you have little cubes that denote probably tracks that you're trying to increase and decrease. There's maps. Yeah, this is kind of cool.
It's got lots of things at the top of the page. Early takes are in. Like, we got some big names here. Jeremy Howard, Man vs. Meeple, says it's damn good.
Yeah.
If he's got his stamp of approval, it's got my attention right now.
Well, there's some praise there's some praise here. Best game of 2020, Mark Streed from the Dice Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 game, best components, Daredevil winner. Wow, those are some pretty good accolades.
Mm.
And the minis look so cool.
These are very cute looking minis.
Yeah, they're cartoon-esque.
Yeah.
I would totally paint those up.
And I love it how they're not chibi. They're not chibi that with the massive heads. They're actually look proportional to the bodies.
Not, I mean, that's not that would make or break me buying a game, but I appreciate it. Cool. So, Mythic Mischief. Like I was saying, I've not heard of anything from Ivy Studios before.
I would have to go into the archives. I have no idea. Oh, it's got a solo mode there, Norm.
I know.
Oh, and part of the solo mode design team was David Turksey, one of our favorites.
Ooh, look at that.
Nick Shaw, and David Turksey. I've heard Nick Shaw's name before, too.
Nick Shaw.
I have heard that. I would have to look
yeah, I mean, he's kind of synonymous with the Atoma company, too, right? For coming up with functional and legitimate solo play.
He's like he's like almost like the solo Jedi master.
Yeah, there's the Morton individual from Atoma company.
Yeah.
He's the one. I think that was the one individual that did Viticulture when they first had that idea of the Atoma deck.
Yes.
So cool. So that is one more time, Mythic Mischief by IV Studios. It looks like such a cool.
Looks good. Thing. I'm gonna put a remind me on this one.
Me too. All right. Well, that unless you have anything to add, I think that's the end of the news.
The news. Yeah. No. Right. That I think that's some damn good news.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Coming into the topic, I'll pitch it to you. And then we'll go into that list. So here we go. Oh, sip of water.
Take that sip of water. I'm just going to give a quick, before we come in, I'm going to give a quick shout out. We've got Ted in the stream. We got Lewis in the stream. We've got Shane in the stream. Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us.
And have a peek at this because
sorry that when we get recording, I keep forgetting to check the stream, but every now and then I'll interact with you folks. But hopefully you're enjoying the content.
Cool.
Plus, that also gives me time to bring up my my notes.
There we go. Ted, I've only played Dune Imperium. Love it. On Mars, Imperial Struggle, we played soon. Yeah, and if I recall correctly, Ted is a fellow history teacher, so little head
nod. I'm mathematics. Mathematics is historical.
So how do math teachers greet themselves? Sorry.
How does a constipated math teacher?
Oh, remember,
he has to work it out with a pencil.
Oh, come on! See, there's part of me that just wants to take it across the line, but I know that we have rules.
Got my Baby Yoda shirt on.
Coming back, I got our own swag here.
Yeah.
Coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to do some topic, and this one is entry-level games. So, Ryan, why don't you lead us into what does that mean, entry-level games? What are we talking about?
So I think we've talked about it in the past, too. Sometimes there's some general terms that get tossed around in the board game world that usually we aren't a huge fan of. Like, I hate saying theme. Like when we go back to our theme episode, I like talking about immersion.
Even one more lower than that, Ameritrash. That's one of your favorites.
Oh God. Oh yeah. Yeah. Talk to that all day long to me, baby. No. So we went with top entry level games because I'm not a big fan of using the word gateway or being a gatekeeper or anything like that. If you like my advice, that's good on you. But I'm never going to force my opinion onto somebody and say that. But we thought entry-level games, you even took it a step further, too. You were saying welcoming games. I think I've seen that term thrown around a lot more. So we're talking about games that are probably better to try to get those people that are not immersed into the hobby like we are. Like, we're ultra nerds into this thing.
Yeah.
Like we didn't just we just didn't walk into the shallow end and just keep. No, we dived heavy into the deep end.
Cannonball.
So we're gonna talk about our entry level games and see where it goes from there. I know we approached what we have on our lists a little bit I think a little bit differently. I'm not quite 100% sure. So I went with, I've got games on my list, and I tried to stay away from the ones that always get recommended.
Yeah.
And that's because you'll see them, if you look up gateway games or entry-level games or welcoming games, you're going to see games like Ticket to Ride on there.
Yeah.
You're going to see Catan on there.
And that being said, I did some fast research to try and find a big sample group to cover that spread. And you hit a couple big ones: Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, King of Tokyo, because everybody knows how to play Yahtzee, right?
Yeah.
Here, you pull some more off that list.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned this was the People Choice list from the Dice Tower archives of the
2019 is what I got.
Okay, yeah.
This list from. Yeah.
And so you said Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, King of Tokyo, Pandemic, Splendor. Hey, somebody votes for Splendor. Love it. You're never going to hear that from Norm.
No.
Catan, Codenames, Azul, Dominion, Seven Wonders were the 10 games that these people Now, for my list, I tried to go with entry-level games that are a little bit more recent. So I went looking about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So about 2016. I went 2016 up till now, and I tried to find some games that are a little bit more recent to get people in. And that's not taking away from any of these other games. They are mainstays, and they are part of that list for a reason. They're fantastic games.
Well, my reason for putting that list down was to give us the ability to put our own kind of flair to it. So thank you so much for the People's Choice people for covering a breadth of, and I agree with all of those. Those are all fantastic games for new players. My approach too was kind of like yours, but not so much the dates, but mostly for what was familiar to me that has worked for me in the past. So, and we've kept our lists private from each other. So why don't you give me one off your list, man? Sure.
So let's go with, this one's like probably the newest game on my list.
Cool.
It's a 2020 release. And I can see this one working once we get that regular Friday night Amazing Stories game night out again. Like, this will be one that I'll probably bring more often than not. And it's a, now I don't even have it up here. I don't have it up and ready. Renature by, I believe it's a Kiesling and Kramer a design released here by Capstone Games. And if you like, lots of people have played dominoes, and it's essentially the dominoes mechanic, but with cute woodland creatures on the dominoes, and a very sneaky area control type of game where it's just like, hey, you're just trying to surround the areas, put your trees in there, and trees got different levels. And if you've got more presence in a little clearing, then you get to claim the points. And that's the game. You keep going until the bag of domino tiles is exhausted, and then you just count up whoever collected the most points. Very cool, very simple to play. I would agree that I think most games on these lists, and the ones that we come up with, we always use that term cognitive load.
Yeah.
Like, the cognitive load of these games is very, very low. Like, you don't have to remember a lot of things.
That's good.
Going from game to game, and that's what makes a really good entry level type of game. It doesn't have a lot of don't have a lot of rules.
Yeah, you're not caught in the weeds with.
And they're very quick to pick up. They're very quick to teach. Hopefully very quick to set up.
Yeah, cool.
So I highly recommend Renature. I went out on a limb a while ago and said that should be the game of the year. That should have been like a Spiel des Jahres worthy game, and it wasn't even nominated. But don't sleep on that one. It's fantastic.
Right on. Looking at that list, Pandemic is on that list, and I'm thinking, if you don't want to play Pandemic, which is a cooperative game, I highly suggest that you pick up Horrified by Prospero Hall Design Group. and I think this is a Ravensburger. And I mean, look at the cover. It is the Universal Studios classic monsters: Frankenstein, Frankenstein's Bride, The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So for me, the first thing that helps this be an entry-level game is everyone's familiar with the theme. Everyone knows these monsters, and the idea is this small town is being invaded by the monsters, and each person represents a asymmetric character that has to go through. Each monster has basically this way of defeating it that is unique, and everything is on the cards. Everything is easily understandable, and it's a action point selection per player. You have like Pandemic. You have 4 actions. You can move. You can pick up. You can do this. Right? There's a menu, and yeah, this game is so much fun. It's solo plays, but I mean, you know, this is you're presenting these to groups, so maybe there could be some quarterbacking problems, but if you're presenting this to a group, I'm sure that you would, as a teacher, you would facilitate and also instruct the proper social etiquette when it comes to gaming while you're introducing this game. So yeah, Horrified. I think this is a great entry-level title.
Cool. And especially it's a good title if real pandemic is affecting you in any way. You don't want to be deep. You want to be playing Pandemic, the game.
Yeah. No, yeah. You don't want it to be this War of Mine where it just turns into a depressing co-op. Yeah, give us another one off your list.
Okay, well, you brought up a co-op, so I'm going to bring up a co-op.
Yay.
And a really great game that I've introduced to kids at our games club, that when we used to have games club in our school.
Way back when.
But I had a ton of students just groveling at the point, and they always get disappointed when this game was taken before they got there. And I'm talking a 2017 release called 5 Minute Dungeon.
Oh yeah.
And such a simple concept of a game. And yeah, it's the game of simultaneous play. Like, you can't quarterback in this game because you have no time to quarterback in this game. You got 5 minutes to reach the big bad at the end of the dungeon deck and defeat them. And essentially what you're going to do is you'll flip over a dungeon card. It's got some symbols on it, like arrows or swords or shields or something. And those symbols correspond to cards that you have in your hand. And so if a card says, hey, I need 2 shields and a sword, collectively you need to throw down those cards into the middle of the table in order to defeat that obstacle at that time. And of course, you don't have time to communicate. People are just throwing cards. If you've overpaid for the card, well, that's too bad. Flip over the next card. Keep going.
It's frenetic.
People have such an awesome time with this. And if you don't want to do like the fantasy thing, like the with the dungeons and the ogres and blah, 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 they have actually a Marvel themed version of this. So if superheroes is more of your thing, you can pick up 5 Minute Marvel.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Fantastic game. I love it. I love it to bits. We play it with our family, and we actually start off with there's no time limit. We just see, like, we're teaching Regan how to play the game, and so putting a time limit on a 6-year-old is kind of like he's still in La La Land thinking of what's going on over there and stuff like that.
You just described my playing. There we go.
So yeah, 5 Minute Dungeon, so cool. It fits this list. Very simple to play, and it gets people hooked. Like, it's addicting.
I'm gonna segue off of your card idea, and I'm going to suggest as an entry-level game, because it's one of these games where up to 7 people can play, I believe, and like you said, the cognitive load on the rules is very straightforward, and it's still one of my favorites, and it's probably the go-to trading game, and that is Bonanza.
Bonanza.
By Uwe
a
Rosenberg.
top 20 game on my
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about this is, I mean, everybody understands how to trade. I mean, you've traded stuff with your, you know, as a kid growing up in your house with your brothers and sisters. You trade lunches at school. We know how to trade. But the cool thing about this game is, once you get your hand, it's kind of like the cards come in and you can't organize them. That is, I like to refer to this as your seed bank. So your seed bank is in your hand, and you can only deal with what's coming, the uncovered card. So you can see what's coming down your let's say your trade organized kind of trade ideas in your hand. But when it's your turn, you have to play into your field. You have to do certain mechanisms, but you can't do everything unless you trade, because that is the most important part, because the bigger fields you get, the more money you get, and it's all about making money off of harvesting your fields. Pardon me. So yeah, Bonanza is, and it's, I think bone is bean in German. I think that's why it's spelt that way. But and the art, I mean, it's not that the art is dated. The colors are a little dated, but it's hilarious. It's sort of like Mad Magazine of beans, right? So, um, yeah, Bonanza, and its price point is super reasonable. I'd say like, oh, it's about $28 Canadian, which is $1.50 American. So, you know,
Ba-dum-dum-tss.
wah wah.
I was about to say lots of entry level games are card based games too.
People are familiar with cards.
People are familiar with card games.
Are you segueing to another card game?
No.
Oh, well, that was
No, I'm
perfect.
not.
It was like written
I
in
know
your-
it was right in for me. Next one on my list is a 2019 release, and I don't know why it doesn't get talked about a lot. It's starting to get a little buzz because expansion just backed on Kickstarter not too long ago, and people are starting to receive it nowadays. But Fantastic Factories
Oh yeah.
is I think fits the bill of a good entry level, very low cognitive low
dice
type
one.
game. And yeah, and it introduces people to the concept of kind of like engine building. Like, and the engines aren't huge. Like, you're purchasing cards. You only got a couple different types of resources. You got your electricity and your steel, and you're purchasing cards, and these cards are going to do certain effects. And you have some dice that you're going to roll, and you're going to try to associate the values on those dice onto these machines or buildings or factories or something like that to try to generate some more resources to eventually generate some points. And yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a very quick game time. So I highly recommend Fantastic Factories. It's one of those games that I kind of, well, what was my, at one point in time I had like my linear progression of engine building type games where I kind of like went Fantastic Factories, and then I went Gizmos, and then I went Wingspan, and then I went Terraforming Mars type. It was something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, hey, here's an introduction to engine building. Let's get another step further, and then eventually you kind of get to like the terraforming terraforming Mars weight of this cascades into that, which can cascade into that type of thing. So Fantastic Factories, it's not just a clever title. It's actually fantastic.
I'm going to. We haven't mentioned this type of game yet, and I love it because it's that idea of a simple turn structure, right? Like Ticket to Ride has a very straightforward turn structure. You do one of three things.
I can see.
This game is that idea of you pick up three cards, you pick one, you put the other two on the bottom, and it's one of my favorite racing games ever, and it's Flamme Rouge. Yeah, and it's you can hear the boxes. I got it loaded. I got all the expansions, and but it's a each person has a bike team of two. I'm not going to use the terms, but two cyclists. One is the cyclist that is going to steadily, bike into the wind, and then there's a sprinter that will basically tail him just until the last part of the race, and then kind of swing out from trying to do as much drafting as you can. The mechanism structure of the idea of drafting is well served in this game from mechanically speaking, and like I said, on your turn you pull 3 cards out of your cyclist deck, which has numbers that range of how much movement on the track. You pick one, you put the other 2 underneath, and you wait for everybody, and in order of operations you basically proceed the cyclists down the board, and at the end of it you determine the drafting rule and try to tighten up the group, and whoever's in the front has to take fatigue cards, because you're the one in the front pushing the wind. So that idea of being in front all the time isn't what you want in this game. You want to be in the back of the pack, or take your turns, but to try and be, it's a race game, I want to be in the front all the time. By the end of the race, you're going to have just fatigue cards, and I think fatigue cards are movement of 2, right? It's the minimum movement. So yeah, I have never had a bad experience in this game. Everybody, basically by the first hand when it's done, everybody goes, got it. Let's race, right?
Perfect.
So, yeah.
I've got one that piggybacks on this one very well, because it's also a racing game.
Hey,
it's also
right
very
on.
simple in nature, and it's also card driven, which is Downforce.
Ooh.
Released in 2017, Restoration Games. Brought back some, I can't remember what the original game was called, but yeah, Downforce is that, and I've used this at some of our staff retreats too, when we had breakout sessions, and I tried to say that it was a relaxing time, but other people were starting to get like I wanted to have a good time with it, but people chose to be mean. I'm not. However you want to play this game.
You could be cutthroat in that game.
You can play this game however you want. So yeah, Downforce. General gist of it: there's different colored cars, and you're gonna bid for one at the beginning of the game, and that's gonna be your car. Of course, you're gonna get some bonus payout if your car actually finishes, like say in the top 3 of the race and everything. But it's all about betting on what car is actually going to win the race at certain points of the game. And all the cards in your hand don't just move your car. They move all the other cars potentially. And so you kind of, the players dictate who's going to go into what spots at any time. And it's just fun. And you can play multiple rounds of it, multiple games of it in a session.
There's a lot of maps.
Yeah. So...
cool. That's a good
Flamme
one.
Rouge, Downforce, two great racing games.
Well, on my last one here, I'm gonna say I was gonna do this, but I'm doing that. Now the idea, I was gonna pick this certain game, and I thought, no. If you're trying to, entry level game, you want more people to play. So I was originally gonna say, Shobu.
Cool.
But Shobu's a 2-player abstract, fantastic. But no. If I'm teaching somebody, I want to teach more than 2. So we talked about this one. I'm going to teach them how to play Calico. And as I had kind of mentioned before talking about Cascadia, Calico is you're building a blanket in front of you. You have your own tableau. You have 3 scoring tiles out of a set of, potentially different ones. And they range from have 2 of the same color and 2 of the same pattern, or 1 of the same color and 3 of the same pattern. Those kind of scoring combinations around these scoring tiles. And there are 2 variables that this game relies upon. And one is color and the other one is pattern. And what happens is you have 6 different colors, 6 different patterns. When you lay out the scoring types, there are different cats in category A, B, and C that will tell you if for 3 points you have to build, this pattern or these colors. In the B category, right? So the variability is fantastic, because, you're a math guy. You can do the permutation on how many different ways can this scoring pattern get set up, right? And it's the same market structure as Cascadia, where you have, but there's only tiles. You have tiles come out in the market. You take one, you replace it, the other person's turn, and you just keep going as you're building this. And wow, this is one of those games where you go, oh yeah, I understand. That's easy to do. And then you look at your choices and you go, has it been 10 minutes? Is it still my turn? Oh, this is such a difficult decision, right?
Oh,
so,
that's painstaking for me. I'm Mr. AP at the best of times.
Oh yeah. This and you know me, I'm like, hey, push that button, pull that lever, and just put that foot on the gas pedal and hang on, right? So, there's you can either cripple your mind trying to decide what the most optimum choice is, or you can just go have fun. So I gotta bring you this game. You and Jen have to try this one out. You'll totally dig it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have to play that one. Okay, I'm gonna piggyback. Oh, I can't talk tonight. Holy Toledos!
You don't have water. You need some water.
I need that water. I need a beer is what I need.
I got some water.
So I'm gonna piggyback off that idea, and I had mentioned this one in our episode of our 5-game collection, and Sagrada is one of my favorite go-to. Hey, people are coming over for a game night and they don't play games, and I attribute it to Sudoku with colored dice, where essentially you're just going to be placing dice onto a patterned window. You get to choose the pattern at the beginning of the game, and some spots are reserved for certain types of dice, like a number or a color. But essentially you have to follow the rule of no two colors can be beside each other, no two same numbers can be beside each other. And you're trying to fulfill certain public objectives where it's like, hey, you'll score 6 points for every row that has different colors in it. So you're trying to get all different colors in all the rows, which is very, very, very difficult to do. Yes. So yeah, Sagrada, and it's got a bunch of expansions that up the complexity of the game, and I really don't think that, like, I have them, but I still haven't played with them because I don't think it actually. It's one of those things where it's like I've bought the expansions, but I don't think I'm ever gonna play with them. Maybe at some point in time I will, but the base game of Sagrada is so pure and awesome. A lot of people can pick up on it. You just pick a dice, put it on your window.
I love those simple rule sets.
And remember that you can't put two colors next to each other. Two numbers is get next to each other. And then people are like, oh, man, this decisions. What do I pick next?
Yeah.
Because it's got that snake draft where if I pick first, I'm picking and I'm waiting for and hoping that another dice that I can place onto my window at some point in time. Yeah, Sagrada. That's my next one. 2017, that one came out already.
Yeah, I love the version of this that has a theme to it, which is role player.
Yeah, right. And I've played that one once. I played that one with you.
Yeah, but I mean, the entry level, right? So if they love Sagrada, I'd say, okay, well, here's that same mechanism in the next level.
If I knew that they liked fantasy themes or they've played Dungeons and Dragons before, I would definitely highly recommend role player.
They would dive all over that theme for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go through. I threw the same question out onto Twitter, and we had a lot of people respond, and also on our Facebook, the Bridge City Boardgamers community page. And let's just start picking one at a time about what people have said about this topic of entry level games. So Ryan,
sure, I'll pick. I'm gonna choose Nathan Boaster right now because I'm actually playing a game of Targi with him asynchronously, and it seems like this game's taking forever because I keep forgetting to take my turn.
Have you talked about Targi on the show before?
I can't go an episode without talking about Targi.
I think so. I think you might have mentioned that once. Okay, so what does Nathan have to say?
So Nathan, his little list here consists of Suro, which is fantastic. Yep, 100% agree. 6 Nimmt. Is a great game too. Scarabia.
Scarabia, I think. I've never played.
I've never heard of that one. I have to look that one up. Ingenious, which is another not so clever title. It's actually Ingenious. And number 9. I forgot about number 9.
That tile one, yeah.
That's tile stacking game. So great list, Nathan.
Cool. John put down Ingenious. Interesting.
Oh, 2 votes.
Yeah. Ticket to Ride, absolutely. Tsuro, which
2
is
votes.
Tsuro. That game's great. It's that whole spatial thinking thing. Frank Zoo. I haven't heard of Frank Zoo before. I'm compelled to go research it. And his last one, which is a perfect segue into you picking this one up, is whatever Dan suggests.
Yeah, and then Dan replied, Ingenious Azul, Ticket to Ride, Transamerica Suro, Incan Gold, Quacks of Quedlinburg, which is actually on my list too. I actually had that one. I was there. Quacks of Quedlinburg's fantastic.
Yeah.
Carcassonne, Kingdom Builder.
I like how he groups them, yeah.
Yeah, and Flashpoint, Fire Rescue. Flashpoint's a fantastic cooperative game.
Cool. What do we have? Oh yeah, Friday Night Games.
You got to put more flair into that one.
Friday Night Games.
Yes.
I think I got some nodes now. I love these 2 suggestions. I have it's Mysterium, which is Dixit with a theme, and Dixit, Dixit. I'm glad someone had that on the list because that certainly should have been on my list. And yeah, without explaining it, it's all based on pictures and images and empathetic interpretations of those. And so those are great. Those are great ones. And what he put, it's not all about rolling dice. So beautiful pictures.
Sweet.
Cool. Ryan.
Rome Demands Stone at more on this later. I love it. They comment on lots and they follow lots of what we do. Depends on the group, but we taught Stockpile to friends newish to board gaming, and Stockpile is actually deceptively simple.
Yeah, and it's fun. So much fun. Cardboard Time. Put that probably top 3: Space Base, Ticket to Ride, and Calico. Yay! And Space
Calico.
Base. You own that one. That's kind of like a Machikoro-esque kind of dice thing.
So I'll bring this up too. I actually don't own Space Base anymore. It's a fantastic game, but I have another game that does similar, and we like the theme of it better, which is Valeria Card Kingdoms.
Yes.
That does a very similar-ish type of thing, and so we have the Valeria collection, not the Space Base collection.
Right on. Ryan, what's next?
Riley Stock at Nerd Out with us. Off the plug. I actually appeared on his. I did a recording with him.
Community show.
I did a recording, so that's going to be coming out in the next week or two. So listen out for that. Riley does some amazing shows.
You guys did an hour episode in 3 hours. Is that what you said?
I think it was something like that. Oh my gosh, he's gonna have fun editing that thing down. Usually, I try and cater to the person, which I 100% agree to do. Try and find a theme that they'd be interested in and build around that. Without that, though, he suggests Ticket to Ride, Rome, which I have to do some digging on. I haven't heard. Pandemic, Code Names, and one that you've told me about, Villainous.
Yeah,
Villainous does seem very interesting.
Yeah, I'll lend you one of the expansions, and then we can do a live stream over the internet about it. So cool. Shane, who loves games,
who's in the stream tonight.
Hey, he is too. Fellow Canadian, eh? So Shane put down for board games. I think the Catan is a great entry-level board game. Absolutely. And there's so many classic jokes that can come out of that game. And I hate the Thief. And for tabletop role-playing games, which I love, I have regular D&D sessions that I DM every week. So yay, love me my role-playing. Using West End Games Star Wars, that's the D6 version. That's that classic box set. I don't think I might have showed you. And I think they released it about 4 years ago. They and not just re-released it in new art. They just took all the same files and reprinted the whole thing. Like you open it up, it's like smells like the 80s, right? It's awesome. And Savage Worlds for simplicity of systems. I think now again, I might be having a lot of hardcore RPGers kind of go, hey, you got it wrong. But I think Savage Worlds takes that idea of the D4, D6, D8, D12, D20, right? All those, dice, and those are slotted into your attributes. Where if you're a big, strong guy, you're rolling a D20, but you might be rolling a D4 for intelligence, right? On your check. So I think, and that system is also used in Kids on Bikes and Kids on Brooms. And I think it's, like I have both Kids on Bikes, Kids on Brooms, because just I love reading about how people use the mechanisms in the RPGs to drive the narrative. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm talking to a math teacher about narrative.
Hey,
X equals 8. That sounds great to me.
Hey, narrative games are some of my faves.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah, I went off on a little RPG.
You went off on a tangent there.
On a tangent.
Let's hop into the Facebook community.
Yeah.
Of course, good friend and fellow teacher at our building, Scott, the original Ticket to Ride. Fantastic. Absolutely. 100% Scott.
And there's so many expansions and different maps that if people like that, and my wife loves Ticket to Ride and Sophie does too, and they're okay with just sticking with that, but pushing the boundaries with the different maps. Nothing wrong with that. Jason, a regular contributor on the stream, says he likes Ticket to Ride, Splendor, Azul, Quacks of Quedlinburg, and Calico. See, I thought Calico was a good one.
Yep.
What's that? Is that a sugar substitute on his list there?
Splendid? Splendor is fantastic.
No, it's a good engine builder wrapped in a game theme kind of. So
well, it's got no theme.
All right,
yeah. Tony here, he says can't stop, which is great. Yeah, just one. Again,
love that game.
That's another favorite in the games club. King Domino, I 100% agreed. King Domino's fan. Quacks of Quedlinburg, and my favorite to play at the lake, Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's nothing confusing about that game, and just compelling too, and cutthroat. Cool. Jonathan says, I tried to vary the mechanisms for each pick. Yeah, absolutely. So he the first one he put down is Ticket to Ride Europe. And then because I took a screenshot and it says see more, we can't click down. So we'll go with that one. Ticket to Ride Europe. Awesome. Oops on me. Right.
Yeah, and the same thing with Tyler. But Tyler's got 3 great ones off the at the very top here. Love Letter.
Yes.
Wavelength. I have played Wavelength. I've heard good things. I used to follow when they did the thing on Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah.
It was always so great. Much fun. And Broom Service, the card game, which is actually interesting because I really, really enjoy Broom Service, the board game.
Yeah.
Which is actually already card driven itself. So I'm interested to see what the card game actually has to offer. Broom Service would be another great entry level type game. It's got a little bit more complexity than, say, most of the games we've talked about, but nothing like unbearable.
Yeah. Cool. Hans, who, as the phrase goes, regular contributor to the stream. Sagrada, see?
Yeah.
He's backing up on that one.
Big thumbs up.
Project L. I haven't played
that. That's a new one that just came out. I haven't picked that one up yet.
He has a Agricola. If someone wants to play Misery Farm as their first, but you know what though, again with that whole everyone's mentioning is like they'll pick the game according to
the group,
you know, the group, right? And if you think that the group is intelligent enough to understand that recipe, fine. I mean, there's nothing confusing about it. Is here's your worker, pick something to do.
You see, if you're going worker placement, I may went like Lords of Waterdeep, maybe.
Yeah. He also has Century Spice Road,
Fantastic.
which is splendor with a bit of theme, I think.
Sprinkled.
Yeah. The Crew, which is
The Crew.
Only cooperative trick-taking game that I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And of course, Hands. I've never seen Hands without mentioning Terraforming Mars. But the Ares Expedition, is that new version of like the tight card game?
It's like if you took Terraforming Mars and you mashed it with Race for the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You get Race for Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Well,
then
you know what?
I will just briefly mention, because he's not on this, but he has been in the stream tonight. Ted has been actively talking with us, and he's got some great suggestions here. He says, my son and students love Sushi Go, which is a fantastic, great one. He has also here Forbidden Island, he mentioned. Fantastic. We've played that one in the Games Club quite often. And I like the one where he got here. He said bus. If you want to throw them to like the wolves, Baptism by Fire is one of the things. It actually is a fairly straightforward, simple type game, but man, is it cutthroat on cutting people off. And it's so fantastic. He's got a bunch of others here. Cockroach Poker.
Oh, that did make my list, but yeah, Cockroach Poker. That
New York Zoo. You've mentioned New York Zoo before. Pan Am. You've mentioned before on the show.
Yeah.
Whale Riders. You've mentioned. Have you mentioned that one before?
I think we might have brushed up on that one.
Yeah.
But not
Carcassonne.
Yeah.
Ethnos. That's a very interesting one. I wouldn't have thought about that one, but yeah, fairly simple. And then he also says Startups, which I'm trying.
Yes.
I want to find a copy of Startups. I hear about it so much.
That's
it's one of those Oink games.
Oink games, yeah.
Cool.
Right on. Well, that's pretty much putting us at our target for an hour episode, I think, without counting the minutes. And always,
I'll never call for an audit.
I get to thank the people that are following us on our YouTube live stream. Thank you so much, everybody, and all the listeners who will be listening to the podcast version of this. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. And as always, I'm your host Norm,
and I'm your host Ryan. I have nothing today. I'm sorry if people were listening for a shtick. I got nothing for tonight.
The no shtick caught me off guard, and we'll catch you later. Oh yeah, there's like a pinter pause there. I was waiting for it, and there was nothing. So brilliant.
I was trying to think. I was like, what would tie into this one? No, I got nothing. I'm just gonna pause and wait for it to sing. Okay,
all right, let's take a
5-minute bathroom break, and then we'll come back for the next episode.
Absolutely.
Sure. So anybody who's in the stream, 5 minutes, and then we're gonna come back.
Get some snacks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a beer. I mean water.
Get a
beverage of sorts.
Beverage. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
5-minute countdown starting now. And we are back.
And we're live on the internet.
I guess
Cool.
so.
Well,
The internet's on computers now, eh?
What? Not punch cards. Okay, I got my water, and we're going
Baby
to check
Yoda.
we're gonna check if everything's happening.
Sure. Why not?
I'm looking at the.
Where's the show notes?
I'm
There
looking
they
at
are.
the stream here with Ted. We should do an international teacher gamer crossover. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm all over that. Absolutely, and we'll get our school divisions to pay for it. Sorry.
Oh, that was the greatest. That was the greatest teacher
I like to
joke
open
ever.
up every episode with a good joke.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't think that'll be making the podcast.
The deep cut at the very
The
end of the
deep
show.
cut. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Sip of water. And my squeaky chair. Here we go. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
And I'm Ryan.
And on this episode, we're going to do some board game banter and chat about some games. And we're going to wrap that up with some news. And Ryan, we got the reviews. What are you going to review?
I'm going to be reviewing Ashes, Reborn, Rise of the Phoenix Born.
It's like a fight fest. And I'm going to do some Pavlov's house. And I'm not talking about ring the bell and I'll salivate.
I was about to say, doesn't that ring a bell?
Oh, I'm leaving that in. I'm totally leaving that in. That's a good one. All right. Coming back in. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. Let's do some board game banter. And Ryan, what you been playing?
So the past couple of nights, my wife and I, after we put the kids to bed, have been really, really tired. And we, trying to decide what we're going to do. And we usually mention like, oh, do you want to play a game? Do you want to watch some TV? Oh, we'll play a game. But what game do you want to play? Well, I don't want to learn anything new. And I don't want anything like really like complex, or I just want to play something that we really, really know. And so actually the past couple of nights we've played Seven Wonders Duel. Ooh. And a favorite of ours. It's a fantastic 2-player only game that takes that Seven Wonders esque drafting, but takes it to kind of like the next level where the cards are laid out in different formations, and some are hidden, some are revealed, so you can try to plan, and you can't take a card unless if it's fully revealed.
Yeah.
And you're doing the same thing, collecting your resources, and those resources are prerequisites for other cards. But the really fun part about Seven Wonders Duel is that it has 3 different win conditions. And 2 of those win conditions are by military strength. So if I collect enough military cards, there's kind of like a tug of war token that kind of pushes and comes back and forth. And so you can win by military victory. You can win by a science victory by collecting 6 different science symbols on the science cards over the course of the game. And if neither of those 2 things have been met at the end of 3 rounds, you just go to straight up points. Now, both of our games the past 2 nights have went. The first game was a military victory, and the other one was a science victory. And they were both by me, and my wife absolutely hated it. And she's like, why does this game have these other win conditions? Why can't it just be just straight up points? And because she was killing me in the points sector, I said, I need to try to win this game, because if it comes down to points, it's not even going to be close type of deal. But that's because when she's collecting some of the point cards, she's neglecting to buy those other cards, which keeps this kind of game in balance. That's why I really enjoy this game, because you have to think about, you can't let somebody run away with the science, or you can't let somebody run away with the military, because it's going to get out of hand by that 3rd round type of deal.
Now, I've never played it before, but I've watched a lot of people play it, and it's kind of like not a seesaw, a one-way, but like a 3-way seesaw. That if one thing is out of balance, then everything just kind of turns over. Yeah.
So and then the past couple of nights we've played with the expansions. So the first night we played with the Pantheon expansion, which adds kind of like another phase. some big like godlike cards that you can purchase starting in the second round, and they do some really funky game breaking abilities and everything. And I actually had a power that allowed me to buy them for cheaper. And so when you actually claim one of these cards, you actually, when you draft them in the first round, you actually get to pick where they go on this scale. So if it's closer to you, it's cheap for you but expensive for your opponent. But I had this power that made things cheaper for me, so I was able to buy the cards that were farther away from me and cheap for Jen, and she hated that. Like, I was taking her stuff that she had planned that she was going to purchase, and I stuck them away from her. And then the other night we played with the Agora expansion, which kind of brings in a little bit of like an area control type thing, and whoever controls the certain seats in the Senate gets like a special little perk or a special little bonus. If you control so many, now I'm already forgetting, but if you control so many of them, that's another win condition now. It's a fourth win condition if you've controlled so many seats in the Senate, like you win the game as well. So
and how is Jen with that one?
She hates that one too. It's just another thing to pay attention to in what's supposed to be a simple game, Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't want to think at 10 o'clock at night.
So that won't be hitting the table soon?
Oh, we still love it. She accepts that it's part of the game, but she just doesn't like it because she always forgets to focus on those other things and just goes straight for the points.
Well, you should remind her.
I do.
No, you're probably thinking, this is the only time I get to win.
Well, that's true. She schools me in pretty much everything else that we ever play. But Seven Wonders Duel, one of the great two-player games. We've talked about it. I think I might actually do this in a future topic of two-player games.
Yeah.
I think I might. Everybody should know what the number one is on that list. Can I go an episode without mentioning Targi?
I think you mentioned Targi once or twice. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Well, I had the chance this week to play a few games, and once I saw this one hit the radar, pinged on my phone, and because you can't really find it too often, and that's the Manhattan Project: Energy Empires by Luke Laurie and Tom Jolly. And this one is and not that I have a lot of Luke Laurie games, but I follow a lot of his games, and he likes his worker placement, and I think he does a very good job when it comes to understanding how to manipulate worker placement. And but in this case, Energy Empire is basically you're representing countries that are trying to, and it's all victory points, right? But how you get those victory points is an interesting way through the idea of what type of energy and what type of kind of philosophy that your country is going to go through. And in doing so, like I said, it's worker placement, and every worker placement has the ability to get more workers. So you'll see a lot of the same mechanisms on this board where there's going to be places to get resources. There's going to be places to get money. There's going to be places to convert things. What is interesting about this game, though, is the timer of the game are pollution tokens that you eventually will acquire because you have to buy buildings. And the buildings are divided into three areas. It's the government market, the industry market, and the commerce market. And like any market, there's going to be buildings that are on the cheaper side, and as they slide down the market, the expensive side, and as they slide down the market, they get cheaper. So there's going to be competition for these buildings that you buy to put in your tableau, and these buildings themselves will have your own worker placement spots where you can get your own engine going, where you don't have to rely on the board's, let's say, generic worker placement slots. This game, the cool part about this game is that there's dice, because like I said, Energy Empire, you have to choose if you're going to go with green energy or if you're going to go with fossil fuel energy. And if you're going to go with fossil fuel energy, there's going to be waste products, and that comes back to this timer that as some buildings, if once you build them, thematically speaking, will generate waste. So that's what starts to get these timer tokens. And every time that you clear a slot on this pollution track, on the bottom of it is an event card. And it's 6 rounds. The first 3 are events that positively enable the players. And then the last 3 are event cards that negatively impact the players. And yeah, it is. And you've got your own tableau that can, build points. And as you pull these pollution tokens off, you put them on your tableau, and you have a air, land, and water track that you're trying not to pollute, because as clean as you can get it, you get victory points awarded for lack of pollution on your tableau. Bottom line, this is a very fun worker placement game. A lot of cool thought angles in it. Now, this is a 2016 game, and I think I'd mentioned this to you before, that it's a 2016 game. And as far as solo games go, 2016, there wasn't really much push into the development of the solo mode, right? It was burgeoning. I mean, most of the time it was try to get your highest score, right? This one, and I don't think this is this an out of print game that I'm talking about? I'm not too sure.
I've seen it every now and then.
Yeah.
Maybe people still have stock of it.
Okay, but I would say if this thing comes back or it gets republished, it could use a revamping on the solo mode. But I want to play this with multiple players, because it to me, it has that viticulture kind of bumping and excuse me, let me come here. And I could talk about how the energy works that you generate, because if somebody's in one spot, that's great, you can go there too. But as far as the elevation of your worker, you have to be higher. So you have to, if there's one worker, then you have to put an energy and your worker. Well, if another person when it comes, then you have to put 2 energy underneath on your worker. So you have to boost that energy to be able to do that turn.
Right.
And that's where these energy dice come that allow you the ability not to be bamboozled out of certain choices. So
Very
this
cool.
So
Yeah,
that's what I've been playing.
Luke Laurie is one of those designers now that have been on my radar, that if he's putting something out, I'm paying attention to, kind of like Alexander Pfister and Jamie Stegmaier type of deal.
Off the top, he's got Crypto. Is it
Cryo?
Cryo. Is there like
Whistle Mountain?
Yeah. Yes.
Whistle Mountain with Scott Caputo.
Yeah.
He did Dwellings of Eldervale.
That's what I was trying.
Dwellings of Eldervale. Yeah. This one, and now I'm probably also forgetting one, but those other ones are great worker placement style games. And if you follow him on Twitter, he's been teasing his latest prototype thing that he's been dragging around and showing off to people. And just from the glimpses of the pictures, I think, he's got me hooked.
Cool.
I don't know anything about it, but the prototype looks cool.
Cool. It's my favorite. Cool. That's all I can say.
That's all.
Cool. And speaking of that, cool. Let me get you some sound effects here, Ryan.
We've got the news.
Start us off with some what you told me, that there's some controversy.
Well, I don't know how much controversy now when I'm thinking about how much controversy, but there was an app game that I had purchased a while ago. It was very well done. I really enjoyed playing it for what it was. Niroshima Hex was in the App Store, and this is a game that you showed me at FallCon quite a while ago.
Beat me up.
Great, a great tactile miniatures-like game, but with cardboard chits, and it works 100% beautifully that way. And it was in the App Store, and then for a while, a long time, it just stopped working, and they were not supporting the game anymore.
Aww.
And Niroshima Hex, put out by Portal Games, that's Ignacy Treviechek's company. And it was like people are like, "What happened to this game? Why are no one supporting this game?" And then all of a sudden, just an announcement out of the blue saying, "Hey, guess what's coming back? Niroshima Hex 3.0 back into the App Store," and everybody just went, "Excuse me, what?" We didn't see this coming, and as of today, I just noticed that it has relaunched.
Oh,
and now all of my stuff that I had purchased in the previous edition is no longer there. All my previous stuff that I had purchased, and they are working on that, but it looks like that I might have to repurchase all of those other things, and like I have to repurchase the game again. From what I can tell, it's a brand new implementation. They've cleaned up. Looks like the graphics are even better than before. They've probably modernized it to like the new cell phone, iPad era now that they have better graphics cards in them now and stuff like that. But Niroshima Hex 3.0 is a fantastic two-player tactical strategic warlike game. They're asymmetrical factions that have their own troops and stuff like that, and
it's a pivot on a dime game. It's so much fun.
It is so much fun. And I own the board game. I own the board game in all 13 expansions currently.
Man, you got hooked. You got hooked big time.
We
came back from that and you're like, I'm getting all of the factions.
Well, somebody had a sale. It was like, get this and then get also the base game and 10 expansions for like what I don't even know what it was, like 50% of the cost and everything. Sign me up. You have
to. Now you got to do it, right?
Now you got to do it. And then I hunted down the other expansions that weren't part of the bundle, and
because
so good.
You got to
see. That's another lunchtime game we can have.
Oh,
every now and then, just bring in.
The way you play against me, you can have multiple lunchtime games with that one. Hey, let's leave the crowdfunding for the last, and let's just quickly talk about what's been started up lately. And I've just following on social media, and I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready for this yet, but the convention seasons are starting.
Convention season is going forward, and I don't worry. I don't think you're the only one in the hesitant state about attending these now, especially one of the big ones, Gen Con. Coming up,
Origins.
Like in Indianapolis there, from what I've gathered on social media, their COVID numbers are not fantastic.
I know.
And some crazy stat of only like 45% of the population's been vaccinated, and 5,000 cases per day. It's a hot. Now, a lot of people are going to be in different levels of comfort into this. So, but even like you and I, we talk like we're fully vaccinated, and even us hesitantly thinking about like, oh man, I don't even we wanted to start up our own little kind of public get-togethers, and we're just like, maybe we'll just have to wait a little bit more.
Yeah, patience is. I mean, it's okay to be patient. It's okay to be patient.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And we've had lots of great conversations already about that convention season and how many publishers are not going to the conventions. And
well, what was the Covenant? Remember you?
The Team Covenant, and I listened to the Covenant Cast podcast, and they were talking about companies are in a unique position. Like there was no Gen Con, Origins, and everything last year.
Scientific research,
and they still churned out numbers. They made money last year, and they didn't have these extra expenses of traveling to these conventions, paying for employees to go to these things, and paying for their time and stuff like that. And they still managed. They had their online components, a little bit easier to manage.
Well, and
that.
They pivoted right when they had to pivot, and I think they successfully did that. And
now they're in their position where there is going to be a physical convention.
Yeah.
And by not opting to go, are they still going to maintain that level of business? Like a lot of these people, they're still going to contribute to Gen Con, but on an online virtual format.
Yeah. It'd be the data. looking at the data, that would be interesting. And I think that's what you spoke of with those guys, because they come from educated backgrounds, and I think they're, you said that they have some pretty cool degrees. To me, that means do your homework. And yeah, I like this approach of comparative seasons. I mean, it's a unique situation. Take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it works on the other side too. Like if you are a person that are comfortable going to these conventions, you're in a unique spot too, where like Gen Con's not going to have the 80, 90,000 people at it, but it's still probably going to, I'm still going to say there's probably going to have like 30, 35,000 people at it. Like that's still a lot of people. That's still a rider game down in Regina.
You're just saying that number and I'm like,
yeah, right. But small publishers, I think they're chomping at the bit for getting to these conventions.
Access to these people.
Yeah, because you're not going to have to compete with Asmodee.
Yeah,
you're not going to have to compete with the big dogs, and your game can possibly stand out for 30,000 people.
Yeah. If now there's no way, considering like the statistics and what's going on, there's no way that I would go to a con of that size. But jokingly in my head is like, the only way I'd go is if you bubble wrap taped me. And I'd just be like bouncing around like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I need full FDA hazmat suit.
Yeah. I'll look like one of the workers on Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
With the yellow suits.
I'm gonna play
checking this for you.
I'm gonna play a game with those like the extended tongue tweezers.
picking up your kids' like dirty clothes. Yeah. Cons, and I'm just quickly looking at the chat here, and there's a few indicators of people that are agreeing with us. That's like, no, thank you. We'll be patient and awesome. Because
and people in Saskatoon, like, still be patient. Like those game nights are going to come.
It'll happen.
They will happen. We're still working on things. We just want to make sure that people are as safe as possible.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I can't wait for us to roll out our cardboard retreats again and have some organized plays and I mean, teachers, right?
Yeah. So
cool.
But these things are still going to happen. We're still going to get news of Gen Con online, Origins online, and we're still going to get the stuff. And we're also in a unique year too, where I don't know if there's going to be a lot of Christmas stock coming down the pipeline because of the shipping issues across the world. And
that's a topic we should have on another episode, because that's a long discussion of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go into some crowdfunding, and we talked about portal games, so let's start with on GameFound, which I'm seeing GameFound competing well with Kickstarter. But we can chat about that later.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. That'd probably be a whole nother topic.
Yeah, Portal Games is putting out now. I'll explain to why I put this on here, but they're putting out a game called 11 Football Manager board game, and for us North Americans, that's soccer, which is the original football. Yeah.
Football, of course.
Yeah. So it's I'll just quickly read. 11 is a football manager game for 1 to 4 players. Your task is to manage and grow your own football club and outperform the other teams over the course of a season. You will hire staff, develop your stadium, sign up sponsors, transfer players, and play matches against against other clubs. As far as sport games go, I put this on here because, man, am I curious how they're going to pull this off. Right. Not curious, it's like, wow, this is an impossible task, but it's the part in me that wants to see a version of this, because some people know that I have an elite level field lacrosse background, and if this works in my head, I'm going, we need to have a field lacrosse version of this game, please. So that's where my curiosity is.
I'm just gonna back up for a second here. I'm gonna grab something off the shelf that reminds me of.
He's getting to the age where he could throw his shoulder out too.
Blood Bowl, Team
Blood Bowl.
Manager, the card game. This kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of that, where you're going to be kind of playing a game of American style football,
Yeah.
but it's all about the fans and getting
Yeah.
people into your games and stuff like that.
This idea of developing your stadium and sponsors, that to me, that's a reminiscent of when I used to play Madden football, where you could get into that manager mode and you can, attribute some of your assets into sponsorship and upgrading your stadium to get more revenue. So I remember Madden, I forget what season or what year it was, had that add-on.
Right.
And I tried it. It was interesting, but to me, I thought, I'm playing Madden football to play Madden football, not to manage the team. It's not Excel spreadsheet, the video game, right? So,
Oh wait, Excel spreadsheet, the game. Now you got me hooked.
so yeah, that's where my curiosity lies with this one. So, what do you think? What do you think?
Interesting. It's a very interesting concept. At the time of this recording, there is only 11 hours. Oh no, 11 hours till
Before
the
it
campaign
starts.
launches. Oh, so it's going to be fresh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that was another reason too, because I thought, hey, when this
comes out,
drops, yeah,
perfect. I'm going to have to pay attention to this. I don't know if the theme's grabbing me, but the concept of the game seems pretty interesting.
Let's track it. Let's track this game.
You do that and let me
I'll
know
track
how
the
it
game.
goes. I'm tracking other games in the background.
Yeah, that's called an addiction. Do you want me to lead this one off? Yeah.
Yeah, you go for it, because I don't know anything about this one either.
This one, I mean, I spoke about in our other episode about entry-level games, how I love my RPG and more specifically Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Awesome. But this one is Down We Go Infinite Edition by Tony from Plus One. I don't think I've heard of Tony Plus One. So Down We Go captures the heart of old school tabletop RPG flavor with simple core rules. This globally developed game includes procedures, adventures, hex crawls, and a new core setting. Venture to Infiniopolis, a twisting city that hungers for gold, jewels, and blood to keep it running. So grab a torch, grab a blade, and seek your fortune as Down We Go. That introduction, I read that one, and that was what prompted me to go put this on there. And also too, from your perspective, that I remember you in university and when in high school you said you used to do some RPG stuff, and to me, the artwork drew me in, and it's a very simplistic black background with white line artwork that has a pretty interesting mood to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it seems interesting.
And
I'm not a big
No.
RPGer like anymore or anything like that. But
which is why you're probably a really good metric, because then you can just
the aesthetic seems really cool. I would like to see this aesthetic more in board games, actually. That just black and white and dark.
It's got it reminds me of some Frank Miller stuff.
Oh, I love Frank Miller. I loved Sin City.
A lot of his groove was that monochromatic use of light and just so maybe that's what pulled me into this, because it had some nostalgic feel with the nostalgic feel of RPGs. But I like that idea of, I'm always curious on how someone can use how they use like a mechanical structure to assist in the rollout of a story. So I'm going to go look into this, because I haven't really looked at how much they're asking, but it's RPG, it's paper, so I might back this thing. I don't know. The curiosity's getting me.
Well, if anything, you get like the lore and the story and everything like that.
Yeah, cool. Here's their tag: A rules light and old school flavored tabletop role playing game. That
Well,
I mean,
there you
that's
go.
sellable to me right there. Cool. All right. We'll take that as a good transition point. Coming back into the reviews. Are you ready? Okay, and I'll pitch it to you right away.
Unique
I'm
New
thinking-
York.
I'm thinking Anchorman.
The
Oh,
Human Torch was denied a bank loan today.
oh, okay, here we go.
That's got to stay in. Can you please leave that
And-
in?
And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. We're going to do some reviews, and I'm going to go straight to Ryan with this one because I'm still giggling from what happened before we started.
All right. So my game I'm going to review today was a no-brainer. It's been something I've been playing a lot of the past little while, over the past about 6 or 7 weeks or so. And that is going to be Ashes Reborn, Rise of the Phoenix Born. Now, it's come out in 2021 here, but it was originally released way back in 2015. And I'm going to get into the story about it a little bit later. It's published here by Plaid Hat Games and designed by Isaac Vega. Artists, it's a team of artists by Thander Lin, David Richards, and Fernanda Suarez. Now, Ashes, Rise of the Phoenix Born. I got to read the description here on BGG.
I love
because
reading
it's fairly epic in scale.
The publisher put work into this. We got to read it.
So, in Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn, a 2-player expandable card game, players take on the roles of Phoenixborns, demigods, and protectors of this world. These characters are the great saviors of their civilizations. Before they came into existence, the humans were plagued by monsters like chimeras that took away their lands and forced them to live in walled-off cities. When the Phoenixborns came, they fought off the chimeras and freed the lands for humans to take over once again. But the time of peace was short-lived. The prophecy arose that if one Phoenixborn was able to absorb enough ashes of the others, they would ascend into full gods, taking mastery over this world. This, as well as humans' greed for land, fueled the War of Ashes. The great cities now fight amongst each other, each one of them with a Phoenixborn at its helm, and you will decide who will rise and who will fall to ashes. Ashes Reborn is now here. So, like it said, it is this customizable card game. Now, there is a core box of Ashes Reborn that you can buy, and it comes with 6 fully built Phoenixborn decks of cards. Now, a deck of cards consists of 30 cards, and these pre-built ones come with 10 cards of 3 copies each. Now, what you're doing, and this is kind of like the fun part about Ashes, it is a very, I was a Magic the Gathering player way back in the day, and I've always dabbled in these dueling card type games. Ashes has got one of the simplest systems for it that I've ever seen. Now, what you're doing is on your turn, you're going to take a main action, and then you may do a side action. And you can do them in either order. Now, your main action is either play a card, fight, or pass. You have to do one of those 3 things on your turn. And then your side actions are manipulating dice. I haven't talked about dice yet, but dice are your magic in this game. So like games like Magic the Gathering, you have to have cards in your deck and you have to draw them in order to play them out so that you can play your cards. All of your cards in Ashes will have some sort of dice cost. And there's 3 levels to the dice. There's basic, there's your class, and then there's your power. And there's only one side of the dice that is your power. Your really powerful effects need power dice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of your side actions is to meditate. And this is a really neat thing because at the beginning of your round, you roll the dice. And you get what you get. What my son says, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Well, in this game, I get very upset if I roll badly. And like any other game with dice, if you roll badly, you're going to get upset. Now, here's where the meditate action is going to come into play. If I meditate, I have to either discard cards off the top of my deck, discard cards from my hand, or discard cards that are in play. And for every card that I discard in this way, I can change one of my dice to any side that I want. So I'm mitigating that luckness, but I do have to take a side action in order to do it. Now, a lot of other cards are going to have side actions associated with them, and there's a whole schwackload of abilities that you can have in this game. And essentially, it's this back and forth. There's different types of cards. There's spell cards, and your Phoenixborn, whoever they are going to dictate how many spell cards you can actually have on the field. They also have a battlefield number, and that is how many units you can control in, like, say, fights and stuff like that. So a Phoenixborn might have a battlefield of 6, but a spell board of 3. Yeah. Whereas another Phoenixborn could have a totally reversed. Lots of spells, not so many units. And every one of them is ever so unique in their play styles. Mm-hmm. Straight up aggressive, or you can mill your opponents like out of their deck and stuff like that. Lots of different things going on, but the core concept is that on your turn, you take a main action and you may take a side action. I'm just going to leave it at that for the game mechanics because this is a dueling card game. A lot of the intricacies come in that card play. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of my opinions, the ins and outs. Oh, I didn't actually get into like how I actually win the game. You win the game by knocking your opponent's life down to 0. You fight them down.
It's a slugfest.
There's actually a kind of cool thing is that once your deck is run out of cards, like one of the things you have to do at the beginning of your turn is draw up to 5 cards. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've run out of cards, and for every card you cannot add to 5, you actually have to take a life. So once you've ran out of cards, the opponent has to start taking life.
Yeah, you start tanking.
Okay, box art. It's your standard Ticket to Ride size box, actually. There's a lot of room for the storage of the components, and the art on it is actually very vibrant and very... this version, I guess I can get into the different versions. Like there's one that came out in 2015. Still stellar artwork. This one just takes it up to 11 now. Like the artwork is highly enhanced. A lot more play with the colors and bringing it to the forefront here. So the box, and I see why they do this. It's a card game. Yeah. It's got to stand out on the shelf. It's got to stand with all the other board games. Yeah. I see why, like they're trying to stick with the board game concept, but they could have released this as a card game in card game size boxes. 100%, but I digress. Components in this game, fantastic. Custom dice with their own, like every set of dice, like there's different styles of dice, and that's your different styles of magic. And they all have their own symbols on them, and they're all custom for that. So, and they're nice weighted, they're very vibrant, and the cards, and the rest of the game is all cards. Yeah. And they're great, and they're great quality. They're fantastic quality, very easy to read. Everything's laid out very, very nicely. The rule book. I now hold in my hand here the 1.5 edition of the rule book. It boasts 28 pages of small pages and very large text. So it is what it is. 28 pages. But a lot of it is like, deck building. How do you build your decks? Drafting. Here's some different rules. If I were to actually look at this for actual gameplay content, we're probably looking at maybe 10 pages of text. Yeah. And it's not hard.
Yeah, and if you're experienced with these kind of games, you just
even if you're not experienced with these types of games, this is a very easy read. And it outlines things very explicitly, lots of examples of what's going on. So if you are not a card game player, you can actually pick this game up really quite easily.
Oh, right on.
The game system, it's that dueling card game where it is, I have a deck of cards, you have a deck of cards, we are going to fight each other to the best of our abilities until somebody comes down. Uniqueness. This game has tons of uniqueness to it. And that's why actually I've started to really fall in love with this type of game. Here's one unique thing. In every other dueling card game, you shuffle up your cards at the beginning of the game, and then you deal yourself out your deck of your hand of cards. You look at them, you get a mulligan, discard some things, redraw things. The opening hand is random. Ashes Reborn, the opening hand is not random. You actually get to choose your starting 5 cards, and they call it the first 5. So right out of the gate, you are not going to be screwed by random card draw. You get to pick the engine you start your game with. And that's actually very important too, based on the matchups you're going to have. If I know that I'm going to be going against an aggressive Phoenixborn, I might need to start off my game a little bit more defensive.
Yeah.
Or I just have a plan. I know how my deck is supposed to run. I'm going to get it going right off the get-go. Fantastic. Dice are the magic. That's another really unique thing about this, in that I can easily manipulate the dice for how I want them. You don't see that in a game. And then also the simplicity of the turn structure.
Yeah.
Take a main action, maybe take a side action. That's it.
Yeah.
And then what I can do with my units, well, you're either fighting your Phoenixborn or you're fighting a unit.
Yeah.
It's so clean.
And like you said, the card does a good job at dictating what its power is, what its function is. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a counterpoint to that. Some of these cards have lots of text on them. So if you're not familiar with the cards, you will spend the first time playing through. If it's the first time you're incorporating that card, you're going to be reading it. Rob from the Meeple Dungeon and I have been streaming this game. There's 6 games of it right now on our YouTube channel. Lots of the games, some people have mentioned that sometimes it seems like we are frozen in time, but that's because we're actually sitting there, we're reading our cards.
Yeah.
Trying to
a little
figure
bit
out
of
what
mouth breathing.
Trying to figure out what they exactly do. Now, that's just going to come with experience. Once you figure out what the keywords do, you're off to the races. But it is going to take some time to get familiar with those keywords, because there's lots of different keywords in this game. So that was connecting. Man, are the spells that you can cast on your players very thematic in what they do, and your allies are very thematic to what I would think that like a big like I can summon a dinosaur. And of course that dinosaur that dinosaur is going to be a tank. Like it's got big stats, and it's got so stuff like that. It is connecting. I do feel like we are all playing, like our Phoenixborns are very quite different in the magics that they control and the spells that they're able to do. Like I was playing a guy, his card said choke. And so it was literally, I'm imagining this guy force choking this other guy. He's exhausting the guy, dealing some damage at the same time, like stuff like that. It really, really kind of cool if the cards can actually connect to what you're actually doing. Okay, I'm talking a lot about this game, and I'm talking very positively, and I know I have not played this as much as maybe some of my other card games that I really, really enjoy, but I think this one is definitely one of the best dueling card games that are out there, and it's so sad that you don't hear about it talked about.
Well, good that you guys are playing it.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of the history of behind it too, because it was one of Plaid Hat's going to be one of their, it was boasting that it was going to be like one of their evergreen titles, the thing that's going to keep Plaid Hat going over and over and over again. And then Asmodee came around and acquired Plaid Hat Games.
Yeah. And
this was one of the games that was on the chopping block. It was not going to get supported anymore, and it had a huge following fan base. Now, many years later, owner of Plaid Hat, I'm forgetting his name right now, I think his name is Colby, reacquired the rights to some of his games from Asmodee. And Ashes Reborn was one of those things. I think it was a passion project.
Yeah.
And so they brought it back as a subscription service. They teamed up with Team Covenant, the Covenant cast that I like to talk about. And they said, if we can get so many people to subscribe to this game, it's not Kickstarter, If we
Yeah.
just get some people interested that they're going to purchase this game, we will reprint it. And not only reprinted, Isaac decided to go back and he rebalanced. A lot of people were complaining about the balance of the original game.
Mm-hmm.
So he rebalanced 40% of the existing card pool. Wow. So he redesigned. And I can't imagine what that game looked like before, because this one is fantastic. Everything is so tight, minus some of the games that we played on stream were quite one-sided. A lot of our games are very, very tight and very close. But we have discovered that some of the pre-constructed decks, some are definitely way better than others. And there's definitely one-sided matchups that we didn't know about. But you look at our stream to figure out what some of those matchups were.
That's the cool thing, is that you can go back and you can learn, right? So
yeah.
Kudos to you guys.
Yeah, so I'm in love with this game. And I can't imagine, like, I haven't even played with the constructed format. And apparently that is where this game is beautiful.
It's
because
fun, yeah.
Because there's no like set type of deck. Any card that's been released for this game can be put into any deck.
Oh, it's like sandbox that wide open. Cool.
Yeah, and as long as you have the dice in order to pay for the cards, that's the thing about it too. So a lot of this games you'll see on the stream, we've either played with one colored dice or two colors of dice, but you could have 5 different colors of dice based off the cards that you've put into your deck. So I can't imagine what those decks look like, because I get AP when I only had 2 different colors to manage.
Yeah.
I really like the monocolor decks because there's no thinking of the resources. So in the end all be all, Ashes Reborn is literally its name. It is a game that died and has now come back to life. And I really, really hope people can discover it again, because if you enjoy Magic the Gathering and you like dueling type card games, you need to check out Ashes.
Cool.
It is by far the smoothest implementation of a game. A lot of people say it's chess with cards. It is so tactile back and forth and waiting for your opponent to make the one mistake.
Yeah.
And as soon as somebody makes the one mistake, that is the opening. And you better take it, because it's coming back to your opponent the next turn, and they've probably figured it out.
Should I ask you the shelf question yet?
Oh, this is top shelf, 100%. This game is going nowhere because it is fantastic. I can kick a lot of other competitive card games to the curb because of this game. Simplicity is the main factor, and there's so much depth. So much depth in the interactions of the cards and the combos that you can build.
Cool.
I just played on stream a mill deck. I saw Becca Scott today on Twitter say, "Hey, if you're that type of player that plays mill decks, I hate you." And then Rob tagged me in it. I'm like, because I'm the mill guy. I'm a blue Magic player, the guy that everybody hates. So,
all right.
Oh, yeah. So it's so much fun. I'm in a euphoric moment right now.
I'll let you sit back and have this kind of like, endorphin rush. Mine's kind of well, you know what? Mine's not a dueling game, but it's kind of a dueling solo thing. And I found this. This was through Board Game Oracle. I keep talking about this. That's the website that'll find you the game that there's one copy in all of Canada, and it's kind of felt like this. And I'm going to talk about Pavlov's House, 2018, designed by David Thompson of the Undaunted series and War Chest, published by Dan Versen Games, or DVG, and it is 1 to 3 players, but you know what? This is a solo game. Plays 60 to 75 minutes. If you're me and you play poorly, sometimes that's 25 minutes. It's it's a 12 and up, so there's some complexity to it, but it's not. Don't be. Basically this is the Battle of Stalingrad. It's a war game, but don't be intimidated by the idea of the war game. This is really accessible. As we like to do in our reviews, we like to break it down. And I just gave you the details, and I'm going to go into the overview and the nuts and bolts here. And in doing so, we love as Ryan had done. The publishers do such a great job writing these intros and these overviews that we're just going to read them. So in this one, in Pavlov's house, you take control of the valiant defenders of a Soviet strongpoint in Stalingrad as they hold out against constant German attacks for almost 2 months. You also control the key leaders throughout the Soviet 62nd Army that made the defense of Pavlov's house possible. Object of the game: the goal of Pavlov's house is to last until the defenders of Pavlov's house are tasked with storming a key German strongpoint during the Battle of Stalingrad. In the game, this is depicted by playing through a deck of cards representing elements of the German 6th Army. And the introduction says Pavlov's house was a fortified apartment building used as a strong point by the Soviet 62nd Army during the pivotal Battle of Stalingrad in World War II. Soviet defenders, primarily from the 7th Rifle Company and 3rd Machine Gun Company, 3rd Rifle Battalion, 42nd Guards Rifle Regiment of the 13th Guard Division, held out for almost 2 months from a constant German assault. The building's name was drawn from Yakov Pavlov, a sergeant who led the initial storm group assault that resulted in the capture of the building from the Germans. The story of Pavlov's house was a key piece of Soviet propaganda and was used as a symbol of the incredible resistance of Soviet forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. Yay! As a history teacher, I immediately sought this game out, and being a solo player, I doubled down that sought this game out part. Let's get into the parts of the overview nuts and bolts is the mechanisms. So what do? They talk about what you have are 2 different decks of cards. Now the board is divided into 3 areas, and it's interesting that it goes from right to left rather than left to right, like we would read a book. But it starts from macro to micro. So on the right-hand side of the board is the zones or areas that are going to be bombed, the support areas of the Soviets that are going to be bombed by the Germans. And there's like artillery, there's mortar, there are communication lines. And in that part of the board is one of the elements of how this game will end, is if a certain target is destroyed twice, game's over. That's one of the ways you can lose at this game. In that phase, you grab what's called the Soviet deck, and in that deck are the actions that you can perform. And typically you have 3, you deal yourself 4 cards, and the card is divided top and bottom of the actions that you can take that are in the different zones of the right-handed side of support. So in that, you can decide if you're going to remove some disturbance tokens, which are kind of like bombing marks. And those bombing marks, if you don't use one of those options in the card selection to start removing these tokens, as it bombs, if let's say target 11 already has a disruption token, then you keep going up and find the next empty one. And the last, I think, is spot 18, because you roll, when it's getting bombed, you roll 3d6. So spot 18 is that endpoint where you have to protect. So if you ignore the removal of these disturbance tokens, you're going to railway, stuff in your game into a crash at the end. So there's that delicate balance of that. There's also the delicate balance of when do you put more artillery on for trying to shoot down these bombers that are trying to drop disruption tokens. When are you going to put mortars that will help support the next phase, which is the central part of the board, which is called the German deck, or where you have 6 tracks that are coincidentally representative of a D6 roll. When the infantry and armor are coming out. And it's basically six on three sides of the building. You're getting attacked by left side has 1 and 2, and the top side has 3, 4, 5, and the right side has 6. And these tracks are what's going to get populated with, like I said, artillery and armor, as this huge, massive deck of, I think, about 150 cards. You have to survive that deck. And wow, that is difficult. Okay. So that being said, you have this assault, this constant assault of like 2 months worth of assault. Coming on to Pavlov's house, we shift over to the far left side of the board, which is the inside of the house with the soldier tokens that you're moving around into different positions on the different three sides of the house. And these soldiers range from very generic shoot once kind of person, or you have a machine gunner's nest, or you have an armored division's a nest where you're able to fire on tanks. And it's all dice roll. There's a lot of probability chance. And I'm usually not a big fan of probability and chance, but thematically speaking, this is okay. This makes sense. This is, I mean, there's a lot of times where I'll roll it. The famous sniper from the Soviets is Chekhov, and it's not that Star Trek guy. But he is the most powerful sniper on the board. And when he shoots, he rolls 4 dice. And how it works is the German token has a defense value that you're trying to beat on a D6. If you can meet it, you beat it, kind of thing. And with Chekhov, he's so good, he gets 4 rolls. But if you know me, I'm a D&D party's best friend because I'm a DM who rolls a lot of 1s. So yeah, so there's that part. But I mean, yeah, that's that frenetic, energy that is this thematically believable with that randomness roll. Moving on. So how do you win this game? You basically survive the deck, and there is a point system. For every German infantry or armored division left on the tracks is minus a certain amount of points. In this whole onslaught of German pressure coming, you're also in a situation where you're going to do little kind of sorties at night where you get to, I mean, they just didn't stay in the house. They had missions to go and recapture certain points in Stalingrad, which is representative in intervals of these cards where you go and do a storm group. And it's basically that internal house objective going, okay, you, and you, and you're going to hit that building and you're going to go and try and take it out. And you send these individuals out. They all represent a dice value. You have to roll against a certain defense value. And if you do, you get the victory points. And at the end of the game, there is a mastery level, right? Okay, first of all, if you can finish the game and survive to the end of the deck, then you get to do your point score and compare it to a mastery level. But wait, not done yet. If this game isn't hard enough at a base level, there's a couple variations. There's an operational deck, which I think helps out the Russian side because it's one of those things where at a certain point, if you want to sacrifice these resources that will leave the game completely, you can get these victory points. And while this card's in play, it can't disrupt certain things. So that, I think that's more of a balancing factor. If you're losing too much at the base game, put the operational deck in because it'll save some of those bombing runs affecting you traumatically. Now, that being said, there's also what's called a tactics deck, which on each turn, because it's basically rinse and repeat. You do the Soviet deck, you do the German deck, and then you do the Pavlov's house. Then you go back to the beginning, take 4 cards, decide which ones you're going to do for your actions. Yeah, Yeah, I think already you know where I'm going with my opinion of this one. So, opinions. We always like to do some outside in and the box art. I'm going to quickly show people who are watching, but this is what the box art looks like. It Pavlov's house. Once you start reading it, the Battle of Stalingrad, and once you understand that it's people being protected inside a house, uh, the blasted out brick is so thematically and visually connected to what's going on, and also the concrete face of the soldier is very reflective of the angular and rough art style of that era. So I think just those two subtle choices of imagery completely draw me and convince me that, yeah, I know what I'm getting into. And then, of course, a black background with red letters. Well, that I mean that's like, war game graphics 101. So yes, the box art is awesome. The components, pretty straightforward. David Thompson is awesome when it comes to understanding that the first important thing about the game is the game, the content, how it plays. So there's no cluttering of, oh, I want this big, awesome miniature. No, these are chits, round tokens, and decks of cards that, Ryan, you'll be happy to know, after game one, I sleeved them all.
Holy crap, that is 2 games I've played with you now that are sleeved.
Over 200 cards sleeved.
I'm
For people who know, that's like sit down because, whew, really? LePage sleeved some cards. Okay. The components, they're great. I mean, they are what they are, and their purpose is to make the game work, and they do a wonderful job. The rule book is, yeah, it's pretty, I mean, white background, awesome. A dark text, very good displays of cards. Like, I mean, like overly large. I'm thinking if it's a war game, it's old guys like me playing, and there's no kind of like holding this 6 feet away to read it. It's pretty, it's out, it's right in your face. It's awesome. As far as the formatting of the rule book goes, brilliant. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a cleaner. And when I mean clean, I don't mean the game itself, but I mean my understanding of the rules. There was in no moment in this whole book was I in a gray area of understanding what they meant. So good on that. The game system and the game style. Yeah, this is like one of those video games where it's like, I just want to clear another level. I just want to clear another level. Okay, one more level. Okay, one more level. Right? That whole cycle of you start on your Soviet deck, you pick what you want to do. That affects how the German deck comes out, and then the Pavlov's house is fixing all that little meta micro stuff, and then back to this one. Okay, we'll do that again. Okay, back to the beginning again, and it is such an addictive cycle that has such imperative of what I'm trying to do. Are these cards going to allow me to have the soldiers in the house accomplish what they need? Oh man, I need this card because if I don't get this card, I can't put this defense out. And right, there's just that ratcheting up every round. It's awesome. The unique mechanism. We always like to talk about unique mechanisms, and you know what? I think this whole game is unique in the fact that at any moment did I realize that I was playing a solo game. I was so dialed into, like as I just described, it was just, once I got on that track, it was, I'm not stopping until this deck stops, and I can't. Even my children are like, Dad, eyes here, Dad, over here, eyes here, right? So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I was so compelled by the system into what the game was trying to do. So yeah, I think that whole that whole right to left is really cool. And the idea, you know what, that's the unique thing. The right to left and the idea of we're going to go from a wide angle lens down to a close up. And then we're going to pop out again. Wide angle lens down to a close up. Does this all connect? Absolutely. Is it follow identically the historical pattern? No, but you do understand what it took for them to hang out for 2 months, and there was loss of life, there was trauma, there was Al and I keep talking about Al as a good friend of mine who's another history teacher. We always are trying to find these games that allow enough simulation and experiential learning for them to either be compelled to learn more about it or to actually have a context of understanding, so that any other relatable event, they have this repertoire of knowledge that they can base it off of. So yeah, I think it does a fantastic job. So kudos to David Thompson for doing some great research. And the tokens, the Soviet tokens, are all individuals as best as historically represented. So my conclusions, I'm going to keep this nice and simple and straightforward, is this is one of those games that you get exactly what you expect and more. I did my research. I went and found this game out. I played it and was so surprised at the fact that I think I played 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
And a good thing was on the weekend, because it was one of those, it's 2 a.m, I should go to bed. Wait, one more turn. No, wait, one more turn. Right. So, yeah, this is top shelf, all the way top shelf.
Interesting.
So that being said, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you're not a big history war game guy.
Nope.
But
it just doesn't sound like my wheelhouse at all.
But was there anything in there that you went, okay, that's an interesting track being manipulated by this, by that? So as far as the mechanics go.
I probably won't play this.
so
this is not my wheelhouse, but this is, I can definitely see how passionate you were talking about it. This is a Norm LePage game right through and through.
And this vice versa, when you're doing Ashes, I'm like, I like my card game sometimes, but you're just like froth.
I like the theme of this episode was that we each picked games that neither of us like. We're like,
it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run out and get that one. But honestly though, watching Robin, you do your Ashes stuff, I didn't miss an episode, and I was dialed in. So yes to that.
Spectator sport.
Yeah. So that's for me, Pavlov's house.
Maybe I just have to actually see the game being played. Maybe there's got to be videos out there.
Yes, oh absolutely, and I think I might have to do one as well, because this is, I think you would be compelled by the puzzle, by the puzzle that is like tick 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 tick, and it gets louder, and it's like a drip that keeps getting louder and faster, and you don't know how to turn it off.
Oh, it's the telltale heart all over again.
So this definitely, if anything that you heard about what I had to say about this game appeals to you, this is part of a series, and I think he's got another one that's coming out just right away soon. So we'll let you know that. And that being said, let's wrap this.
Wow, did we have 2 drastically different games?
Oh yeah, the pendulum swung big time.
But in both games, they're so niche into the hobby.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? If we both had the same taste, then we'd be pretty Oh,
this would be a boring show.
A one-note podcast.
This show would be even more boring than it actually is.
And that note would be demolished. With that dad joke being delivered, I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan. Let's get ready to rumble.
And we'll catch you later. That's a wrap.
Bam.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm tired.
I am tired too.
I'm
and
tired.
We're still on the internet, so we have to keep it clean. Keep it clean.
Right. Cool.
Great. Bye, internet. Thank you for watching.
See ya, folks.
We
Thanks for
appreciate
joining.
you.
Thanks for joining in. Really good chat to see.
Oh yeah, this
I'm-
is fun to see people on the chat.
I'm trying to find. Jeff and Hans didn't come on tonight.
They're playing.
They must be playing Terraforming Mars. Okay. Where? Oh crap! Where am I? Sorry, I'm trying to find where I'm supposed to turn this off. There it is.
Turn it off.
Yep. Bye, folks.